Hello and welcome back to another video. It feels like it has been ages since I filmed. I haven't really filmed much throughout February, but I'm now back. I thought I would do a bit of a different type of video today and bring you along on the process of me making a drawing. So today is International Women's Day, the 8th of March, and I wanted to do a drawing to celebrate that, and I'm going to bring you along in the process of making this a final illustration. So yeah, let's see how it goes. I'm really excited, and I think I'm gonna put on it like, I don't know, like empower all women or something like that. And yeah, it should be really good, and I'll just bring you along on the process.
So as I said, this illustration is for International Women's Day, and it was really important for me when I was creating this to try and make sure that it was like as inclusive as possible. I think that a lot of the imagery and symbolism and just language used around International Women's Day is often quite aimed at cis women, or just it's very stereotypical basically. So I wanted to try and make an illustration that would represent like all women, and all different types of women. So I've got disabled women, I've got queer women, I've got trans women, I've got fat women, women of colour, and I really wanted to try and make it as inclusive as possible. So that was the aim of creating this illustration in the first place, and that is also why I chose to have the text on it saying empower all women, to really highlight the fact that that was the purpose of this illustration, and that was my take on International Women's Day. So yeah, and in terms of my process, so what you can see now is the first thing I always do is block in the background of my illustrations. So I like to do this with a slightly larger brush. I normally have it on around size 70, and I just like to scribble in all of the background. I really like to do it by hand because I like the texture that adds. That's just like one of my favourite things about doing it. I always say to people that like I like scribbling, like that's what I do. So yeah, that's how I like to do the background of my illustrations. I tend to do that first. I often go back and change the colour of the background, which you can see I've already started doing in this video. But once I've got that blocked out, it just means I can fiddle with it as the illustrations go on. And then the next thing I always do is when I'm doing a drawing that has people in, is I'll always add in the skin tones first, because I just feel like that helps me to create a basis for the colour palette and everything, and just to make sure that I've got a variety of skin tones before I start doing anything else. So I do this as part of my like base layer of the actual illustration, which I have on a separate layer to the background and the sketch. And for this layer I like to add like the base layer of colour under the original sketch, because I just think this helps me to be less precious about it. At this point I want to just like get colour down, start sort of fleshing it out and filling it in, but I still want that texture, I still want it to have that hand-drawn feel. So I just basically colour it all in with skin tones and colours that I think I like and will be using. And also at this point I change the size of my brush, so normally I change it down to size 24. I use the charcoal pencil brush in Adobe Fresco to do basically all of my illustrations. So one thing I normally do, which I don't know, this will sound weird, but like a lot of the time I struggle to pick what colours I want to do all of the time. So the first thing I normally do when I'm struggling is I go through the illustration in like sections and think like what things within this drawing have to be a certain colour, or like do I want to be a certain colour. So like for example, I knew I wanted that person to be wearing a denim jacket, so I think okay, well I need that to be blue. or like if I want people to have certain hair colours and things like that, I go through and I try and pick out. This illustration isn't necessarily the best example of that, because a lot of it was clothing that I had like free rein to choose the colours of, but I normally go through and pick like the essential colours out first that are needed to make, just to make the illustration look right, and then after that I find it easier to choose the rest of the colours that I use because I've already got a bit of a basis down. But yeah, within this illustration I had quite a lot of fun, but also a little bit of indecision about choosing the colours, but in the end I'm really happy with how it came out. But you can see throughout the process of this video that I do change the colours quite a lot as I'm working on it, and that's one reason why I like to draw all of the texture in by hand in different sections, because then if I do want to change the colour I can just fill in the section that I've already like coloured, and it obviously changes the colour but it keeps the texture that I've drawn. So yeah, that's something that I do quite a lot. But yeah, so the next stage, which I think is actually my most favourite stage, is adding in the shadows to my work, and I guess some of the details, but mainly adding in the shadows. So I normally try and pick a point for which I want the light to come from in my illustrations. For the most part that is normally from above, and then I just sort of think through where those shadows would be. So for example, like on a body, like under the chin, or like in someone's like arms, or if someone's got clothes that are hanging over, like it will, if the light's coming from above, the shadow will be below it. So I go through all my illustration and do that, and I don't know why, I just really enjoy adding those shadows. I really have fun with it. And then I start adding details to the faces, which again, like I really enjoy doing that. One thing that really helped me when I started to draw faces was to almost think about like how I would put my makeup on. So if you are someone that wears makeup, that's something I always go back to, and I think like, oh, like I would put like my blush there, or I would put, if I'm adding like highlights to the face, I think, where would I put my highlighter, like on the tip of my nose or like on the top of my lip, and like that helps me to think more as well about like the high and low points of the face and just like the placement of things on the face in general. So that's a little tip from me. But yeah, so I go through and I do that. That's probably one of the bits that takes me the longest within my illustrations, because I really want the people to sort of look recognisable and look real, so that people are like, not in terms of realism, but I want them to be relatable, so people can see themselves within the illustration and relate to it, because ultimately that is the aim of my work, is to help people to feel represented and for them to feel seen. So yeah, I really like to get that bit done well, and then I just get to do all of the other fun bits, like adding in all the details. I really enjoy drawing clothing and adding details to it, adding patterns. I like to try and flesh out the people within my illustrations as well by adding accessories, things like badges or jewellery and stuff like that, just to make them feel like more legitimate people rather than just like, I don't know, like rather than just a woman. Like they've got their personality and they've got their bits that they like and their way that they represent themselves the same way that like most people do. Like everyone has their own way they like to dress or their own style and things like that. So that's something I also try and think about when I'm drawing people, and that's also really fun to think about. I really enjoy doing that. But yeah, like I build my illustrations up mainly in lots of layers. So I tend to have like a background layer, a base colour layer, and then a layer for shadows, and then above that a layer for details. And the shadow layer and detail layer I always have sitting above my original sketch, and the rest of the layers are below my original sketch, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's how I always work. I don't really know if that's clear. If you would like another video where I explain that in more detail, let me know. But yeah, that is how I always work. I have the same setup for making all of my illustrations because that's just what works for me, and I enjoy working that way, so I haven't changed it. But yeah, so I'm really happy with how this illustration has turned out in the end. I'm really happy with the level of detail that I have added, but also the fact that it still does look like my style, and I think it's still like very textured and still quite playful, but also I think it's just very reflective and inclusive, and it represents all the people I wanted it to represent. So yeah, I'm very happy with how it turned out, and thank you for watching this video and joining me in creating it. If you do have any questions about my process or anything else you'd like to know, please let me know in the comments, and give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed seeing the process of me drawing. I'd love to make more videos like this if you're interested. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll hopefully see you soon. I hope you're having a lovely day, and yeah, subscribe if you would like to be a part of the Rainbow Club. Thank you, see you soon, goodbye.